The sixth episode of the second season of Peacemaker starts with a flashback 35 years ago, with Chris marrying his father Auggie and his brother Keith. But Auggie gives him an alien. He is seriously injured, but instead of helping him, Auggie kills him. He leaves behind a kind of suitcase. And there, in the middle of the forest, is the portal to the quantum deployment camera. So far, everything seemed to indicate that Auggie had created this technology, although for several reasons it didn't seem logical. But with this, it turns out that this is not true, and he simply stole the technology from an alien. Back to the present day, Argus agents go on their way to Chris's house. Economos argues with several of them, so Bordeaux, the manager of this team, asks them to shut up. Meanwhile, Chris has returned to his house in his own dimension. Outside, several assault teams of Argus prepare to enter his house. Auggie opens the fridge and begins to eat Chris's food, and while Peacemaker tries to deal with him, he receives a text message from Economos, warning him that Argus was coming for him. Before entering, Bordeaux divides them into pairs, and Economos has to work alongside Redson Wilde, the eagle hunter. Thanks to Economos' warning, Chris had already left by the time Argus surrounded the house. He was carrying the alien briefcase we saw in the flashback. Redson Wilde tests the Auggie's feces, and only with that he knows how many days ago it was and what he ate. Judo Master reaches Chris, and the two begin to fight. Because of this, Chris drops the briefcase. Meanwhile, Redson Wilde sees Auggie and was going to shoot him, so Economos ends up pushing him. Peacemaker and Judo Master continue to fight, but when they fall from Chris falls on him, leaving him unconscious. Chris recovers the briefcase. Meanwhile, Adebayo receives a magazine. It's like a soldier's magazine. She is very excited because they have already published their ad offering their services, but she also receives a message from Chris asking for help. Redson Wilde regains consciousness after the fall of Economos, which caused him a wound on his forehead. Economos obviously did not tell him that he pushed him, but it was another eagle. Something that doesn't make sense to Redson Wilde, who, let's remember, is an expert in eagles, but opting to believe in Economos, he thinks it's a prophecy of the natives that is being fulfilled. Devallo goes through Chris and Auggie, and then he talks to the watchman to get a door. Chris explains to Devallo what happened. His father didn't create the quantum deployment camera. They stole it from an alien, and it will change location the portal, so he had taken the briefcase. Now, although Auggie did not create this technology, it seems that it is still true that he did create the Peacemaker helmets. So Auggie, at least if it was something intelligent, but not the super genius that some had thought for the quantum deployment camera. He also talks to Economos and asks him to delay as much as possible. Devallo and Chris arrive at the abandoned cabin of his grandfather. After he enters Chris's house, Bordeaux wants Economos to open the portal. He starts to delay. In the cabin, Chris opens the suitcase, starts to reconfigure some things, and then activates the device. While this happens, Economos, after taking a long time, starts to hack the portal to open it. And although he manages to partially open it, it immediately closes because Chris had already installed the portal in the cabin. Adebayo and he leave the cabin and the portal is a big explosion. Back to Chris's house when they open the door again, this is just a closet. When Redflag's father finds out that the mission failed, he decides to get Harcourt, who again, as we have seen previously, fights to unload his frustrations. Redflag is going to visit her. She complains that no one is hiring her, so Redflag confirms what she already knew, that she has been banned. Amanda Waller as a retaliation for what she did to her daughter when she exposed her to the public at the end of the first season, which caused her to be removed as director of Argus. This for Harcourt means that for the rest of her life, she will not be able to be hired by any government intelligence agency. But since Rick Flag is already the director of Argus, he offers her to work for him. She says she would do anything, but when Red Flag tells her she wants her to help her capture Peacemaker, Harcourt gets uncomfortable. Back to Devallo and Chris, she tells him about her ad in the magazine Pro Soldier, but Chris reveals that this is a scam. No one buys the magazine, and they only make money by selling ads for mercenaries. Chris reveals that he killed the other Chris from the other dimension by accident, and Devallo suggests that, and maybe the other dimension is only in his imagination, which does not seem totally crazy to me that it turns out to be that. But I think it is another universe as it